Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at the Arteza set of 72 Expert watercolor pencils. There's a few different lines of Arteza products. There is the Expert line, which is designed more for artists. There's the Premium line, like their paper here is a premium line. It's a cellulose paper. That's more of a student grade line. And they also have a classic line, which is more for like kind of school children, kind of like your beginner type of watercolor and art products. I've never personally seen any of the classic products by Arteza, but the Premium and the Expert products have been out on Amazon and their own website. I do have a coupon code for you if you do want to purchase anything from the Arteza website. I believe it's Frugal10, but I will type it in the video description just to be sure. So they sent me these to review because I had a few viewers ask me about these, so I asked if they would be willing to send me a set. These cost around $35 generally. The price will fluctuate a little bit between Amazon and the Arteza website. So I always recommend you check both places and see what where the best deal is. And the first thing that I noticed was that the pencils were arranged kind of I don't want to say haphazardly, but every tray of colors in here had a variety of colors. They weren't in like a rainbow spectrum. So what I did off the bat first was I put them in order according to how they were listed on the back of the tin. That way it would help me when I'm swatching so that I don't get confused as to what color I had. And then what I did was I made a swatch. I just stamped out my swatching stamps from Waffle Flower, and I these little bars. These boxes have two little marks in them, so it kind of divides each box up three ways. And I colored in the first two sections with a pencil, and then I diluted that second section and then just pulled it into the third that didn't have any pencil on it. So in the first section of each of these boxes, you'll see the color sketched out full strength, and then the middle one you see me add water, and then the last section is just me pulling that color through. So I was really pleased at the intensity and the vibrancy of these colors, and also how soft and creamy they felt as I was coloring them. They'll come to you sharpened to a blunt point like this. I've used them all, but this one is probably the closest to how they come to you, just kind of like a blunt point. I did sharpen a few of them because I wanted them for some details, but I found working with them just like that was ideal because with watercolor pencils, you can use a wet brush to get your pigment wherever you want it to go. So I don't like to over sharpen my pencils because I don't want to waste the lead. So these come in 3 different trays, and what I did here, because it was a little difficult to get these out, and I've noticed other people mention that as well, so I thought this is something I do for other pencil sets, especially ones that have longer trays, like they might have 36 in a tray instead of 24 or 12. I made these little tabs out of duct tape, and it just helps me pull them up. Now, another thing you might want to do is to glue some cardboard, like cereal box cardboard, to the bottom, just to give it a little bit more stability if you're worried about it being too flimsy. But I think if you have 12 or 24 pencils, it's not too flimsy. If they got any longer than that, I think they would be a little flimsy. But this worked out great for me. I just made sure the tape hit underneath the tabs here so that they had a nice flat place to adhere to. And then again, I wouldn't go lifting this over your head, just lifting it and setting it down. You shouldn't have to worry about the tape coming off or falling. And I'll show you how I did that. I just have some beautiful Dollar Tree duct tape. I thought that design was really pretty, so I couldn't help myself when I saw it at the Dollar Tree. Just pull off about, I would say, 1 inch of tape, maybe not even that much, or you could go wider, whatever you want. It's your tin. And then what you want to do is fold the tape so you make a tab to pick it up from, but you have about 1/2 inch of sticky exposed. And then you're going to stick that right underneath one of the thumb grab flats there so that it has a good place to adhere to. Because if you go on one of these areas, you don't have as much space to adhere. You'd have to kind of like tuck it up underneath. And I know I'm getting a nice bond there. And do the same thing with the other piece. And I do this for a lot of my sets. I just, if they're a bigger, like a longer set, I just put some cardboard or mat board or something underneath so it's a little bit more stable. And there you go. It just helps you remove it out of the tray so that, so it's easier, because hey, who doesn't like easy? I thought that the tin was a great size. It kept everything from moving around when you're moving it or storing it or taking it to school, or in my case, take it to the couch so I can watch HGTV while I'm sick with a cold and I can color in my sketchbook. And I thought that was really just just excellent for that. So, and it's not too much space. If you're working with it on your table, you can put the trays in here. Sometimes when you have a 72 set, they have 2 longer trays of 36, and that can be a little more difficult to fit around your workspace, because this I can have 2 to one side of me and 1 in front of me, or I can arrange it in I have more options on how I can arrange it. Now that really shouldn't be a deciding factor of why you buy one pencil over another, but it certainly is something to think about if you if you craft from bed or from the couch, or you have a small desk, or you're at the kitchen counter. You want to make sure that, you know, it's as easy as it can be. You can also use cups, obviously, to store these pencils. That's how I keep my everyday pencils, are in like cups right to the right hand side of me upstairs at my table, so I can just grab what I need. But if you don't have space to keep them out all the time, this is a nice option. So I wanted to show you some of the artwork that I did with it, and then we're going to go look at the swatches again, and I have some other swatches to show you. So the first thing I did with these pencils was I worked on toned tan paper, and I thought it worked really well for this technique. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I started off by sketching on the tone tan with the pencils. They showed up really well, which I was surprised at how opaque and creamy they felt, because they felt to me much like a Prismacolor, really. They weren't quite as opaque, but gosh, they were really close. When you add water, obviously it's going to dilute them a little bit, but I found building them up on the tone tan worked really well. I did end up using some India ink to go in and blacken around it for a little more definition, and then I did add a little bit of white gouache. There was also a little bit of wax pencil in here too, but I was really impressed with how those watercolor pencils gave me the watercolor effect that I want, and also the heavier wax application, because I personally like to use colored pencils over my watercolors, and to be able to have a medium where I could do the watercolor layer with the pencils, let it dry, and then go over and do the wax layer. For me, that's a really versatile product. And so, as you know, I had a cold and I was on my couch, just kind of being a lazy bum, recovering. And I decided to do a little doodling in my sketchbook, and I found some gorgeous inspiration photos on the Instagram account, The Scran Line. And he's a baker and has a YouTube channel and develops these beautiful, crazy recipes, gorgeous cupcakes that I will never make, but I will draw them until I'm blue in the face because they're gorgeous. And he is totally cool with fan art or people like drawing his photos. So I took full advantage of that, and I sketched this cupcake, and I did that like I mentioned. I colored it, I sketched it with a light yellow pencil. So that's another thing about watercolor pencils. A lot of people ask me, how do you get rid of your pencil lines when you're done painting? And for me, it used to bother me. I used to hate seeing my pencil lines, like graphite pencil lines, but now I actually like seeing pencil lines, so I don't try to get rid of them. But it's really an issue for people. They don't like to see their pencil lines. So if you're a watercolor painter, you can sketch with a watercolor pencil and it will go away. And my friend Cinnamon showed me you can actually sketch with watercolor pencils under your acrylics and they'll go away. So that's another option to use them. I thought the leads were nice and strong. When I sharpened them, I didn't have any crumbling. You wouldn't want to sharpen them to like a needle point and then press hard with them, because then the little needle point will snap just on the end. It will kind of crumble. But it's a very resilient lead for a watercolor pencil. So like I was mentioning, I sketched it with the light yellow pencil. I lightly colored it in kind of with the edges of the pencil. And then I liquefied that. So I had just pretty much like a watercolor painting. Then I went in with the pencils, and I'll just show you in case you don't know, in case you haven't seen any of my watercolor pencil tutorials before. Then I took, I would take my pencil and I would take my water brush and I would just pick up the color, and then I would go and kind of blush in some of these areas, like for the pinks and the grays, anything where I had like a little bit of a reflection from something else, not a really strong color. And I went in and did that everywhere with obviously the respective colors, not with, you know, charcoal. I did use some charcoal in there though. And then I did a layer like that and I let it dry. And then finally I went in with dry pencils and I burnished, like over the cherry, I burnished over some more with the different shades of red and purple. And then I went over with a little bit of white just to give it that kind of like cast reflection highlight on the top. And I was surprised at how much I could layer with these and kind of have this do the work of two products, which would be like a watercolor pencil and a colored pencil, or a watercolor and a colored pencil. So I was very impressed, and I didn't stop there. I did this one, and I had some requests to do a tutorial on this, which is on my YouTube channel, so I did post that the other day. And I also did this like lemon cupcake because it was so pretty. I oh, all of his work is so pretty. I love seeing his photographs. Everything is just like an impossible cupcake. It's like so gorgeous. I don't know how anyone eats them because they're so pretty. But anyway, that's a tangent. So I did the same thing with yellows and purples and golden ochre type colors, and it was a dream. These were a dream to work with. I found this paper was plenty robust for watercolor pencil, and I've also used this paper for their watercolor brush pens, and it's worked really well. I don't think it would take a ton of scrubbing and really, really wet washes because it is a cellulose paper and it doesn't quite feel that robust, but for all the watercolor pencil stuff, it was more than adequate. If you're a stamper, this is an important note, the backside's smooth, so you could stamp on the backside really easily with your rubber stamps, and you could color with your watercolor pencils or with your markers or whatever you want, any water-based medium that you want, and I think you would really enjoy it. That's what I do. I've done several tutorials using the backside of the Arteza pencils and the Arteza brush pens because it's affordable, it's versatile, and it performs well. It performs the way I would expect. I mentioned the price on those pencils being around $35 for a set of 72. I don't mention the list prices because I think the list prices, I don't know where I've never seen them sell for those list prices that they have on their website, like $119 or something. I've never seen that, so I always see them around $30, $35. So that's what I'm going to say. And I think they're outstanding value at that. At $100, I don't think I would say they're outstanding at $100. And these, you get a 3-pack of these sketchbooks for about $20. And these are sold on the Arteza website. I'll put a coupon code in the video description. I believe it's frugal10 for 10% off, but I'll type it out just to make sure after I double check with my email, because they sent me these products to review and they offered me a coupon code to share with you guys. And what else did I want to mention about that? Mention the prices. Oh, Lightfast ratings. That's something I wanted to go into because they do, on most of their products, Arteza does offer Lightfast ratings. Let me zoom out here. And I think that's totally awesome, but I want to mention that the Lightfast ratings on their pencils follow the standard ASTM guidelines, and the Lightfast ratings on all their other products are opposite. So if you have like the Arteza watercolors or acrylics or gouache, their Lightfast ratings are the opposite of the pencils, but the pencils go with the standard ASTM Lightfast rating, with 1 being excellent, 2 being very good, and 3 being fair. And that's like what your Winsor & Newton paints would be. What most of your popular brands in Europe and the United States would have. But some Eastern paints go with an opposite scale called the Blue Wool scale, and they will have their highest number would be the most Lightfast. So if you're ever like worried that you don't have it, you don't understand, or you're not sure about your Lightfast ratings with any Arteza product, what I recommend you do is you look for your known fugitive colors, and those are usually like, look for your hottest pink because that's generally going to be very, very fugitive, and look for your earthiest brown. And what you're going to see is that your browns, your earth tones are very Lightfast. So whatever you have for that, for this case, it's 1. That's going to be your most Lightfast color in the range. So you can base your range on that. And your least Lightfast, the pink is 3. So you know that's the least Lightfast because pink is always fugitive. So just think of that hot pink pencil running away. It's fugitive. It's on the run. It's going to fade. So that's a good rule of thumb. Anytime you're not sure about the paints that you have or how the line of paint rates their colors, go online, look for their chart and see how they're rating their paints. Not all pencils will have Lightfastness ratings. In fact, that's not a very common thing. I don't think, like, even my more expensive Derwent pencils don't have Lightfast ratings. So this is exciting for these watercolor pencils to have these ratings, I think. So yay for that. They also, on a lot of their other products, put pigment information. I've never seen a pencil with pigment information on it before. These don't, but like their paints do, their tube paints do, which is really exciting. Their pan paints don't yet, but maybe someday. So another thing I did with these pencils, because I love doing an all-over swatch because it gives us a good idea of how the range looks and performs, I also did some swatches on some cardstock and just a piece of cotton watercolor paper that I had here. Basically because I just wanted to see how, I wanted kind of like a reference point for the colors I was swatching on the cardstock. So here on the watercolor paper, I have just a random assortment of colors there. And then I did it on black, and this is a smooth black paper, so anytime you have a dry media, the rougher your paper is, the more media it's going to grab and the more intense your color is going to be. But I figured that probably you guys are either watercolor painters or you are paper crafters, card makers, scrapbookers, so you'd probably either using watercolor paper or a textured art paper, or you'd be using a smooth drawing paper or a smooth cardstock for card making and stamping. So I wanted to give you kind of results that you might be interested in for the type of artwork that you do. So this is just regular white cardstock. I drew a black line just to see when I swatched these out how opaque they were. They actually were quite transparent on the cardstock, probably also because like it's a very smooth paper, so it's not going to grab a lot of extra pigment. But it did look a little streaky because it's on a smooth cardstock. What I'd recommend if you're using this to color stamped images is I would color it and then I'd use a blending marker. And I don't know if I have one handy. So I can show you what that looks like. Well, I can show you what a regular marker looks like. A water-based blending marker looks basically like one of these markers, except instead of having a colored tip, it's got an uninked tip, and what it has in it is water and glycerin, and it just helps you move the colors around and blend them out so they don't get streaky, and you just put a little color down, you blend it, and it's beautiful. And I've done that in a lot of videos as well. If you want to search blending marker on my channel, you'll find it. Then I colored on craft paper because that's always really fun to color on, and the colors were nice and robust. Of course, they're more opaque, dry, less opaque when you add water. The black of the colors pretty much disappeared. I can see the color, but it's not enough that I would say, yeah, color on black and have a great time. I don't think they're going to show up that much on black. And then obviously there's the control cotton watercolor paper, just to see how bright they are there. But I definitely think if you're using a toned paper, like my toned tan that I was using, that I showed you the raindrop on earlier, or a toned scrapbook paper like, a moss green or a pink or a craft or anything that's not like super dark, like a black or a navy or a hunter, I think those would be a little too dark. But I think any of these toned, like medium to pastel shade papers are going to work great with these pencils for paper crafting or sketching. So I think that's pretty much it. I will link in the video description to those other tutorials using these pencils if you want to see them in action. I think as far as quality and value, I would give them a 9. To get 72 really nice pencils that don't break when you sharpen, that don't break when you put quite a bit of coloring pressure on them. Like here, I'll just grab a pencil at random. I'm pressing pretty hard there. There's a little bit of crumbling because I'm pressing so hard, but that's not going to hurt anything. That just will fall right off into the trash can. But it gives you so much pigment and so much coverage. And I only sharpened a few colors because I wanted a sharper point. I didn't feel like they wore down very fast. Like, I really enjoyed the Prima watercolor pencils, but I found they wear down really fast. These I find are just, they lay down really well. On a nice quality watercolor paper, you get an extremely smooth look. It'll have to do with your brushes as well. I'm using a fairly short bristled stiff brush here. But the color's fantastic, and they were really nice to work with when I was sketching with them on the couch. And these are definitely something I recommend. So I will put kind of a written synopsis of this in the video description and on my blog if you want to look at some, pros and cons and all that stuff. And if you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope it helps you decide on whether these pencils are right for you, or if you're trying to decide between brands. I have not found a watercolor pencil that lays down so much color that also acts like a wax pencil dry. So that's kind of a unique hybrid, I guess, property for me, because usually if you have something that lays down opaque and creamy and feels good to color with, then it usually doesn't dissolve very well, but this does both, and I'm very impressed with them. So I think Arteza hit it out of the park with this one, and you have my blessing if you want to get these pencils. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go, and until next time, happy crafting.